The Fighting Irish roll over Ramblin' Wreck and the Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets despite yet another slow start.
By Samarza, inside the 20, inside the 10, he's going in! Notre Dame has scored!
Go, 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 go!
You will be that driving force to motivate those coaches and those players to beat Southern Cal.
Notre Dame is relevant again.
The 20, the 10, fire, rocket, touchdown!
Notre Dame is number one.
It's a game of who's going to flinch first. We know that it won't be Notre Dame.
Notre Dame defeats Georgia Tech 31-13 inside of Mercedes Benz Stadium on Saturday. It was not pretty, and quite frankly, neither is this Notre Dame Fighting Irish team, but they improved to 6-1 on the season. It was another slow start for the Fighting Irish of Notre Dame. It was 7-0 in favor of the Yellow Jackets after the first quarter. Notre Dame starts off the game by going 3-and-out. They then would force a punt from Georgia Tech. We get the ball with decent field position, start to move down the field a little bit, and then there was an interception thrown by Riley Leonard.
Play action. Leonard, he wants the home run ball and overthrows his intended receiver into an interception. Warren Burrell's going to run it back. Could have been a touchback. He wants a return. Dodging tackler.
You can blame both Bo Collins and Riley Leonard for that interception. Yes, it was an overthrown ball, and yes, Bo Collins stopped running his route. And lastly, the Yellow Jackets would go 71 yards in 13 plays and score a touchdown to go up 7-0. And that's back-to-back weeks. Notre Dame has trailed 7-0 on their early in the first quarter. The Irish responded well, though, with a 14-play touchdown drive and then a 5-play touchdown drive for the lead. They would force a 3-and-out to start the third quarter and then have a 6-play touchdown drive to go up 21-7 over Georgia Tech. And then it got really, really weird. We would turn it over on downs in a situation that I don't think was necessary to go for it. But Watts would get it back the very next play.
Byron, long throw, jump ball, sideline, intercepted. Fake punt, a reverse. They're trying to block it up for Love. He's got the first down. Notre Dame.
We would end up settling for a field goal, which, hey, credit to that new kicker coming in. His first field goal attempt in years, I think it said. So the Irish would go up 24-7. Georgia Tech would turn it over on downs late in the fourth quarter, but the Irish would still be aggressive in this ball game. They were up 24-7 at this point in the game, and they were trying to take shots downfield. We would fake a field goal, and then all just to miss a field goal just 3 plays later.
Another fake. Running the sideline and coming up short.
Yeah. Don't tell me that Marcus Freeman isn't aware of the conversations and what the conversations are like.
I want to talk to Logan about this. He had some thoughts on Saturday. Marcus Freeman, seeing a lot on Twitter about him. You were furious with him. Thoughts on that situation and that situation as a whole, Logan?
I was very frustrated at the time. Since then, obviously, calmed down, but still frustrated with the fact. Obviously, I understand the concept of needing style points, wanting to blow out your opponent. But for me, there's a time and place. And for the fourth quarter to be what the fourth quarter was Saturday, was just frustrating, to say the very least. I thought it made us look even worse, trying to run it up and not having the ability to do that. The fake punt, the fake field goal, it's all cute and all, but to me, it's why show your creativity in that game when we might need it down the stretch later in a different game.
Next game.
I think after the it was either after the fake punt or the fake field goal, then we try to throw a pass play. It's almost picked off.
Mm-hmm.
It was just frustrating. It just felt like I wasn't happy with it at all. And obviously watched the game with Landon uh, more or less pathetic to not be able to put away this team. It's 24/7. You have the ball 3 or 4 times in their own side of the field and can't put up points,
Right.
um, other than a pick six by Adon. But frustrating to say the least. And watching the team, and I think we can go back and you see IU still be able to pour points on Nebraska with their backups, and we're not able to do the same when we are more or less playing the depleted Georgia Tech team
Right.
at that point.
At that
Uh,
juncture, absolutely.
so to me, it was just run the ball and get the hell out. But obviously, that's not how that transpired, and just made us look like
Right.
shit.
Right, absolutely. Adon Schuler actually got a pick six, and he would make it 31-7 late in the fourth quarter.
Right now is all that matters and how you win. You have got to put on impressive performances.
High throw, and it's intercepted. Byron airmailed it, and this is going to be a pick six for Adon Schuler.
That was a pretty cool interception. Jumped the route and just took it to the house. And then Georgia Tech goes 80 yards in 2 minutes on our second group defense, and they would score a late touchdown. Riley Leonard had another accurate game, 20 for 29, 203 yards, no passing touchdowns, and an interception. As we mentioned, he had 51 rush yards with 2 rushing touchdowns. Jeremiah Love, 14 carries, 36 yards and a touchdown. And Jadarian Price, 8 carries, 69 yards, really led the way on the rushing game. Jeremiah Love with 3 receptions for 57 yards, led the team in reception yards. And then Bo Collins with 5 receptions for 51 yards. Meanwhile, on the defensive side of things, backup quarterback Zach Pyron, 20 for 36, 269 yards, and a touchdown with 2 interceptions. Pyron also led the team with 45 rushing yards. Excuse me, I'm sorry. Notre Dame held Georgia Tech to just 64 rushing yards the entire game. I know. Listen, it was Georgia Tech, yes, but this team averaged about 210 plus yards on the ground alone every game. If I'm correct, I could be wrong. Just a game ago, they put up over 300 yards against North Carolina on the ground. JR, for our defense to hold a rushing heavy team like Georgia Tech, especially without their quarterback, to just 64 rushing yards, pretty impressive from the defense.
The defense has been stout all year long. They've been above average. I don't want to say they're great or they're elite. They do have their holes. You should be able to do that with a backup in. We put the pressure on him all day. We leaned on our strength. I like that. If I may for a moment though, go back and address Logan, play devil's advocate for a little bit with regards to how the end of the game was handled. I don't know if you guys saw that, and maybe this is just coach speak or whatnot. I'm not sure. Again, we're not in that room, but Coach Freeman had indicated that they wanted to kind of implement those things earlier in the game, and they really never had the opportunity to do it. So they did those things later in the game, and I agree with you guys. I don't think it was necessary. We did end up looking poor and all that, but sometimes as a coach, you want to put those things on film, even if your plan is not to use them down the road, because you either want to keep your opponents down the road either honest, or you want to open something else up to counter what they think you put on film. So I'm not going to freak out that much over it. It looked like there was quite a lengthy conversation between Coach Freeman and Coach E at the end of the game where, I think he knew it. It wasn't a good look, but he had other reasons for wanting to do that. So I'm not going to try and get into his head too much. I agree. We didn't look good all day offensively. So it's nice that our defense has continued to carry the torch. And let's be honest, that's the one side of the ball where we really don't have any concerns about decision making or scheme or readiness or preparedness or anything like that. We've pretty much shown up consistently defensively the last 2-3 seasons under Coach Golden. So nice and impressive to be able to stop a rushing attack that's been competent going up. But, things are going to get tougher on the ground going forward with some of these opponents we have up. So, and again, we're a little thin on those outside areas. You saw that one play early on the game. They kind of picked on Leonard more. They threw, they put some guys in motion. They flooded one side of the field. Moore kind of dropped off, and they slipped the tight end out. You're going to see stuff like that. But I don't mind those kinds of mistakes as long as you keep the ball in front of you and you keep everything in front. So here we are, you guys. We're in the top 12. We're hovering around right there. We're going to have to continue to lean on our defense and hope that our offense can put enough together to just, keep us in the conversation, because we're going to be there if we can take care of our business.
Yeah, absolutely. Looking at it, it looks like some projections have us as the 9 seed. I'm not going to talk playoffs just yet. We still got a long ways to go before I start doing any predictions or anything, in my opinion.
As it goes to style points too, I think they do matter in the public perception. I think if you ask I think if you ask two teams, if you ask two biased people who just watched, I know you don't want to turn this into an Indiana show, but if you were to compare, what Indiana is able to do, like Logan said, to what, Notre Dame does, I don't think you have as much faith in Notre Dame as you do Indiana right now. And I'm just going to say that. And there's going to be those kinds of questions if you remain on the edge of that 12 spot. So you're going to want to win these games and win them fairly convincingly just to leave no doubt.
Yeah, I get where you're coming from. I get that. Now, Dylan, it looked, JR mentioned scheme a little bit. I thought on the offensive side of the ball, we were out schemed drastically on Saturday afternoon.
I thought so too. And going back to your point, I mean, I'll hit on offense first, and then I'll go back to the defense side that JR shortly touched on there. Offensively, I think, although I believe we were a little bit out schemed in your opinion there, it was a new quarterback on that side. You weren't sure what he was going to bring. Obviously, they didn't have their starter there. But on our offensive side, I think what we saw yesterday, or on Saturday, is the exact way we're going to run offense the rest of the year. We saw Jeremiah Love get 14 carries. Thank God. We saw him get 3 touches out of the backfield, 3 catches, and getting that involved there. Riley Leonard, I mean, he ran for 51 yards, 2 scores. He averages 65 per game, which is insane from the quarterback position in Notre Dame. I don't think I've ever seen that there. 203-yard passing game. He's over 200 for the second consecutive week. He's going to hover around the 70% completion percentage. He's going to throw for about 200 yards, and he's going to run the ball about 10 times. That's just a fact. I think this is it took us a while to figure out exactly how to balance out this a little bit, but I think now you're going to see him finally hit his strides and just be who he is, which it may not look great every single week. There's no doubt about that. But I think what we saw on Saturday in terms of touches, carries, receptions, the way we want to balance out the attack, I think that's exactly what we're going to see going forward.
And unfortunately, that is what it is. And yeah, go along with the defense as well there, Dylan.
Yeah, so going to the defensive take, you talk about minimizing their elite rushing attack. You can stack the box against that. Let the backup quarterback beat you. And that's basically what they did. They allowed him to go for 269. So to your credit, they had a great rushing attack, but at the same point, coming into the game, you have to understand, they don't have the same quarterback that you have to respect back there. They were going to let him make you respect him before they do that. So they collapsed. They made sure they stopped the run first and foremost, which was their strength even with their starting quarterback. So I think not to discredit the defense's effort from Notre Dame, but that was definitely something in the back of their heads. And in terms of the playmaking there, I mentioned it in one of my keys to the game. get a defensive play from someone that
Yeah.
we don't know because I said Benjamin Morrison's gone. Like there are a lot of issues in terms of who we know is going to be starting cornerbacks and moving around on the defensive side of the ball. And
Mhm.
Schuler stepped up and made a play. So props to him. My hats off to him. And yeah, lots to look forward to this Irish team. It's good to get in there and get a win regardless. It may not look pretty, but hey, good teams find ways to win. And we've been able to do that ever since losing to that damn Husky team.
Yeah. Yeah. Logan, go ahead.
Our 23 class looks really good.
Yeah.
Really good on
Hmm.
both sides of the ball. Gray House got involved Saturday. That is one thing I was thinking. Like I'm looking down and like wrote some key names. It's just with the exception of Riley Mills, it's unbelievable. And
Hmm.
then I thought Leonard Moore after the mistake JR, mentioned played his butt off, played really well. And it's really cool to see the trust on the defensive side that they have for these younger guys. Drake Bowen's going to be an animal and
Dog.
starting to
Dog.
really starting to figure things out. Obviously, Adon with the pick six, but looks really good. That's something to be excited about.
Yes, it is. It's very exciting. And that
You
that
almost
is
pick
positive.
six.
What'd you say?
You almost had another pick six to
Yeah,
start the second half.
Yeah. Yeah. Arguably should have had a
Yeah.
pick six to start it.
Christian Gray should have gotten a pick too, as
Yeah.
well.
Yep. Yep. So that is a positive to take away. Now back to JR's point about Indiana. Man, if that we'll get to the week 8 college football, but the way that Indiana dominated that game, was that game ever in doubt for Indiana? Just give me your head shakes. Yeah. Was the game ever in doubt for Notre Dame? A little bit at the beginning. A little bit at the beginning. I was getting a little worried. I want to be on that level offensively to where we can just dominate a team, be up 28-7 at a halftime. And, if your quarterback is injured, not have to worry about putting your backup quarterback in the second half and still managing to put up another 28 points. I would love to be on the offensive level, but unfortunately, we're not. And it is what it is. And at this point in the season, we are what we are, JR.
It just goes to show what good, competent coaching can really do. Because if you look at Indiana's roster, I think they have something like I read that they have like 9 recruits that were playing that had 0 stars. Rourke, he's from the MAC.
Ohio.
He brought in a stable of guys. They brought a stable of guys in from JMU, and those guys weren't heavily recruited either. The talk across the board is Signetti, way before it's anything about any of the players that they have. Credit to IU too. Their offensive line has been dominant up front all year long, paved the way. Notre Dame's had a lot of issues. Our depth has really, really been tested, and that's one thing I do give our staff credit for is they've had to use the depth, and the depth has been ready and fairly productive.
Mm-hmm. I think our offensive line has played fairly well given the circumstances they've been dealt with this season. I'm very impressed actually with the offensive line. Last year,
Yeah, they've set the boat.
yeah, yeah, and so the Irish are now 6-1 on the season, going to a bowl game for the 3rd straight year in the Marcus Freeman era, 3 out of 3. However, we have talked about this many a times. Bowl games are not enough. This season was supposed to be the year that we were going to go undefeated, but we all know what transpired there. Not going to circle back, but bowl eligible, one of the teams that made bowl eligibility this week. Let's talk about week 8 in college football before we get out of here and talk about Navy tomorrow morning. Week 8 was a phenomenal week. We'll start with Thursday night. Virginia Tech was up 28 to nothing. BC comes storming back, makes it 28-21. La Tech runs away with it 42-21. Duke beats Florida State on Friday night for the first time in program history at Wallace Wade Stadium. Guys, the Seminoles 1-6, one loss away from being eliminated from bowl eligibility. My God, this has to be one of the worst disasters coming off of a playoff season ever. I mean, my God, JR, how does this happen?
Well, it started it last year, and it's just carried their way all the way through. Again, they're butthurt. They're looking to sue to expand the playoffs to 300 teams so they can make it in this year. They got problems. They need to look internally. You better watch out, IU, because they may come calling for Coach Sig. Florida State, Florida, dare I say, Michigan. I'm not sure I would want to go to Michigan given the scrutiny that's kind of surrounding that whole place, but there's going to be a lot of people throwing a lot of money around.
Yeah, absolutely. Some discussions to be had, some money to be given, maybe perhaps to Coach Signetti down there in Bloomington.
Hey, Coach Prime, man.
What, Logan?
Said call Cuban.
Don't.
I don't think IU. I don't think you can cut this out if you want. But I don't think IU is going to struggle with keeping Signetti. They have the facilities. They have the college town. They have the NIL.
Yeah. But would Signetti want to go to a powerhouse? I mean, Florida State.
I think he's arrogant enough to think that he can do it at IU, which is a good thing, obviously, for IU fans.
Which he's doing.
I don't think it matters to him where he's at. I think he knows he can do it wherever he's at.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter.
That's true. That's true. Yeah.
Arrogant might not be a good. I love him, so
Me too.
it's not a negative arrogance.
Mm-hmm. I loved his little pregame speech that he gave in the interview. This place, we got it rocking. Instead of we got to play well, he literally looked at her and said, "We're going to play well today." And
we're going to do what they're going to let us do.
Oh, yeah. Thanks, Mark. Yeah, okay. Never mention Mark Cuban on the show again, please.
I term it a disciplined confidence. I don't quite think it's an arrogance.
Oh, come on, man. Oh, JR, come on.
No, I think it's a disciplined confidence.
Oh, come on. Google me. I win. And then, come on. Purdue sucks. So does Michigan, Ohio State. Come on. He's a little on the arrogant side.
Well, I wasn't lying.
He backs it up.
Yes, but that's
he's confident. He's confident, and he's not. I don't think he's very. He was respectful of Nebraska leading up to the game. He's got a lot of loot traits. He's willing to self-deprecate his own squad while being very respectful of the opponent who demands it. But he's not going to shy away from, being confident in his players' abilities and his coaching. Yeah. Why should he?
Right. BYU survives Oklahoma State in the final seconds to win it 38-35. Mike Gundy, 3-4 now on the year, 0-4 in the Big 12. There's some conversations to be had in Stillwater. I know Logan was pretty upset about that one. He was mainly upset at me because I told him to take Oklahoma State money line when they were down, and they came storming back, took the lead, and then BYU. Prevent defense, baby. Good old prevent defense burns everybody again. I hate prevent defense, especially in that situation. Get out of here. Miami survives Louisville 52-45 in a shootout of a ball game. That Miami team looks legit. I'll say that right now. They look really, really good. Coach Cristobal finally has a team that I think is capable of winning a national championship at this juncture. Clemson beats Virginia 48-31. They looked very shaky in this game, kind of going back to the old ways of the Clemson Tigers. Haven't seen that from Clemson in a minute. I know we're harping on a 17-point win, but 31 points to Virginia. They look very shaky in the first half, as Logan knows. He had Clemson -8 in the first half for a lock. They were only up by 7 at the end of the first half. It took some little miracles to happen as well. So Clemson, hey, they're with us 6-1 on the year, ranked above us. I believe they jumped to Iowa State in the polls. IU absolutely destroys Nebraska in Bloomington, 56-7. Here's a little picture from Big Noon Kickoff. That is my lovely girlfriend there on Big Noon Kickoff on TV. Yeah. Fantastic picture there. Yeah. Good for the town of Bloomington. College game day is rolling into Bloomington next week for a weird matchup, Washington and Indiana at a noon game on the Big Ten Network. You don't see that often. So good for Bloomington. Missouri escapes with a 21-17 victory over the Auburn Tigers. Their starting quarterback got hurt, went to the hospital, got an MRI in the second quarter. This all transpired in the second quarter. He came back to Missouri and played the rest of the game. And he said, quote, I have 2.5 games left at our field. I'm not going to miss it in the hospital. I mean, that's nuts. But hey, Missouri survives 21-17. They got some issues heading into the meat of their schedule. Cincinnati.
Shout out Drew Pine.
Yeah, shout out Drew
Saw
Pine.
some tick there. Saw some tick.
Yeah. Drew Pine, former Notre Dame quarterback, obviously. We all know how that transpired. Army and Navy are both undefeated. 6-0 are the Middies, and 7-0 is Army. Cincinnati beats Arizona State to stay alive in the Big 12 race. The Big 12, another conference that seems to be wide open as can be for that automatic bid. I'll say that right now. Big 12, wide open. They're going to put a team in the playoff no matter what because they're a Power 4 conference. Just depends on who that is. South Carolina smokes Oklahoma in Norman. They had the Boo Birds out early after a pick six. They had a pick six, a scoop and score, and another pick six. So Oklahoma, stick a fork in them. They're done. There's a lot of stuff going on in Norman, Oklahoma right now.
Add them to the list.
Right. I think they're going to be looking for a new head coach at the end of this season, no doubt. Tennessee knocks off Alabama 24-17 in Rocky Top. Good for Tennessee. Looks like they're starting to put something together on the offensive side of the ball towards the end of that game. Kind of wore out Alabama's elite defense there. Illinois beats Michigan 21-7, and the Walmart Wolverine fans are just cry me a river. Cry me a river. You get what you deserve, and this is exactly what you people deserve. Losing to Illinois 21-7. I had to hear it all last year. Wah, wah, wah. This is exactly what you people deserve. 21-7 against Illinois. They're out of the top 25. I believe they're 4-3 with a losing record in the Big Ten. Gonna get absolutely smoked against Ohio State. No doubt. Leave no doubt in my mind. Maryland beats USC 29-28. USC now falls to 3-4 and 1-4 in the Big Ten. They really blew up a conference just to go 1-4 in their new conference. Nice job, Lincoln. Attaboy. You get an attaboy, Lincoln Riley. Colorado rolls Arizona in the desert. Coach Prime putting together a shaky, solid, good season there in Boulder in year number 2. LSU hammers Arkansas 34-10. Texas A&M played like absolute dog water and beats Mississippi State 34-24 in Starkville. Win's a win, I guess. Vandy survives Ball State 24-14. Little Clark Lee special there on the low-scoring defensive side of things. Iowa State survives UCF 38-35. Michigan State beats Iowa 32-20. Another great loss for Kirk Ferentz and the Iowa Hawkeyes. Florida. Hey, how about Billy Napier? Beats Kentucky 48-20. He might be hanging around for another year there in Gainesville. TCU beats Utah 13-10. Some issues there for Coach Whittingham and the Utah Utes. And finally, Georgia dominates number 1 Texas in Austin, which leads me to my last point of the morning. Is there a true runaway title contender this year? I don't think so. I think it is wide open this year. I genuinely think it is anybody's game, anybody's year in the top 12. I think we could get a steal. Not us, but I think somebody is going to steal this national championship. It's not going to be a powerhouse. It's not going to be one of those true contenders if there's any, JR.
I think there's still like group 1 and then there's like 1A. I think Georgia's still elite. I still think Texas is elite. I think Ohio State's going to be a problem, but again, don't quote me on this. I think they're a sleeper to watch out for needing a new coach either. Things could go problematic for them, especially if they were to imagine if they were to lose to Indiana
or Penn State.
Or Penn State. Yes. So to an extent, yeah, it is wide open, and maybe there's not a consensus number one and no real true undefeated team, but I still think that there's maybe a class that's a little bit. Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah, a little bit.
All right, I'll go out on a lone wolf there. I think it's
so. If you had to pick a title winner, who would you pick right now?
Right now, I can't.
Right.
I can't pick. I can't pick.
I'll be that guy.
You know what? I will be that guy. Miami.
Oh, what do the odds say? Does anybody have?
I don't give a rat's ass about the odds. I hate the odds.
I can find it for you here in 1 second.
The amount of times that ESPN brought up our chances for a college football playoff made me want to smash my hand through my TV. We get it.
Miami is 8 at plus 1,800. Ahead of them are Tennessee, Clemson, Penn State, Oregon, Texas, Ohio State, Georgia.
Of all the teams, I think Miami looks the best. I like this Miami squad.
I like Clemson.
Have you defense?
I like Clemson.
Can score points, man. Can do it. We can't.
I think Miami is Fugazi, and they're gonna lose maybe multiple games. I do like
disagree.
JR, we hinted on this a little bit last week. Like the coaches, there's not many great coaches anymore in college football. But I think the ones that have been there and have been in the moments are going to step up in this playoff. Like Dabo, you're going to see Kirby. Like those guys are going to make deep runs.
Yeah, I agree. 100%. No doubt.
We are back tomorrow to preview a rivalry renewed in East Rutherford, New Jersey, the Meadowlands. Notre Dame takes on old rival Navy. We'll talk about it tomorrow on the Golden Gnomers Report. Until then, go Irish.